you know, of course, that I referred to our discussion on the last Zoom meeting, and where we actually spoke about how do we become open to the world, you know? How do we hear and see in a way that makes life extremely precious and meaningful? And it was then that I realized it's when we so recognize the distinctive uniqueness of one another that we lose the barriers of aloofness, of indifference, of apathy, of prejudice, of self-defense, all the rest of it. You know, these are walls. And, you know, and that our lives actually is a journey of overcoming and of learning to be what it is that we've been created to be. And, you know, that it hit home to me so deeply that there's only one way. I must learn to love. And so let's, you know, it has got great ramifications, but we can talk about it because you so wonderfully illustrated the danger of boxing people in and of trying to be the healer, you know. And the healing is actually this facilitation of the uniqueness of another. It's something completely different. So let's just take up on some of your impressions and talk about it.
May I be allowed?
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Teria. I would personally right now would like to express my gratitude to you because it's no secret. We are all, this is how I see it, we are all at different stage of living, of walking, and I look up to you. I look up to you like a small child following a parent. And that is very important because it gives you the courage to say, yes, this is what is needed. What is needed right now is love and true love. And you have just said it in a very beautiful way, which just calls me, and I believe the rest of us, to realize the power of love, the true love we have within us, and the true love we have around us. I don't know if that makes sense, because I just believe that's so important. So I'm so grateful that you've said it, because it does inspire me personally, what you have just said. I might have said it in a hesitant, not sure, like a small child walking around learning to walk, but with a firm hand you give us, it definitely give us that trust to say, yes, this is where you should go. You have to go the route of love. So now, to say that this is what is needed, that is definitely what is needed, because what I've realized is, in a world of suffering, when we are faced with suffering, somebody have said it, and I've seen it here, I've shared with friends, when it's acutely starting, the suffering, the tendency of all of us is more likely to look for help, to try to grab to somewhere, to something, to somebody, to survive. But when it continues, when the suffering becomes chronic, like now we have it with COVID. When COVID started, we all felt, okay, we would go into lockdown for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. We can follow. But when it went beyond 3-4 months, 1 year, we start doubting. we start questioning. And that's where I feel like suffering would bring us to a place where we start doubting the yes, the calling life is presenting to us. The suffering will push us to withdraw in our own corner and disconnect with other people. So definitely what you are saying now, you are calling us to say, regardless of what is happening, regardless of the war in Ukraine, let's be aware that what makes us human beings is our capability of loving other human beings. It's for us to see in our uniqueness that we have one humanity, we have one shared humanity, and we have to stand by it. So thanks a lot for putting it very clearly and without no doubt and hesitancy, just to affirm us in whatever we are doing. Thanks again, Teria, and thanks to everyone for joining us.
Yeah, I think, sometimes we just don't explore what Frankl is saying profoundly enough, because this is what he said. The salvation of man is in and through love. That's it. And then to realize that what he was saying, unless you can see the uniqueness of somebody else, which he defined as love, you're not going to be able to elicit the will to meaning in them, and you won't be able to encourage them to transcend their difficulties and take up their own unique space in life. Because there's nothing that gives somebody, and this Frankl also said, a feeling of greater self-worth than the realization that they are needed for who they are, and that they have something to give to the world. In fact, they have something that nobody else can give to the world. That life is in a unique conversation with them. It's not mankind, where are you? It's Adam, where are you? Susie, where are you? Teria, where are you? Kanda, where are you? And it's that conversation that we pick up in logotherapy to see how life is calling out to our client, or in any interaction that we have with anyone, to recognize how much they are loved, actually, how much they are loved, that life is not giving up on them, that they are cornered, that they are challenged, that they are invited. And we just simply, when we affirm that, that's when the realization, aha, comes about. So actually, I, like I said, it was a new revelation to me, because I never really thought of our vocation in life as the measure of which how much we love. And whatever we do, we've done in love. We've done for the sake of somebody else. And if I have to choose, if I'm put before a situation of choice and I have to make one right choice, the consideration is always, what will it do? What will this decision of mine, if I choose this way, how will it affect the person I am involved with right now? And this is the moral yardstick. So, actually, the inhumanity towards man that was no more, and it will never be seen in such grotesque completion again as in the Holocaust. That was the worst of the worst. It cannot be any worse for anybody at any time. That was the final wake-up call to the world. Look where prejudice, look where heartlessness, look where lovelessness will lead to. Can you approve of this? Or will you learn to say, no, this I will not do. It is wrong. You know, I love it, the saying of a Hillel the saying, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and that you should do unto others what you'd like them to do to you. Hillel was the one to say, do not do unto others which you would not want them to do unto you. This is the yardstick always, you know, how it will affect the other in a situation I am involved in. And even if it costs me, you know, and even if it's a decision that doesn't benefit me in the immediate term, that I lose something or I have to step back or whatever it is, in the end, the reward of doing the right thing is what will take you through a most difficult relationship that you may be having with somebody. But that you will say, I'm not giving up on this person, and I'm not going to react to them as they are reacting to me. I'll hold on until that's the reward, you know. But anyway, there must be other people wanting to say something too. Any other comment?
I would like, hello, Teria.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. And the subject that you're bringing is something that is really in my mind now, the last month, with everything that is happening. And the first thing that I was thinking is, how do I contribute in this aggression?
Yeah.
Am I contributing in a way? And I realized that there is a little bit of I, me, and my in my everyday life. That brings out a grain of aggression. And I really thought that if I inspire my students or my patients, instead of bringing out the grains of aggression, because this is a tone of aggression, and I think everybody has contributed in that aggression, you know, with a little bit. You know, we are in conflict inside our mind. We do meaningless thoughts, you know. And these are small grains of aggression. And then there is a Hitler or a Putin or somebody else, and he's strong and say, bring all the grains, I'm going to use them, you know?
Oh, fantastic. Fantastically put. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is for sure that what is coming out right now, it is part of what we all collectively contribute. So I find myself jointly responsible for that war.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Oh, that's it. I think that, you know, if we can live under this kind of scrutiny of ourselves and recognize, you know, that I mustn't be an accomplice either in my inaction or in my own prejudice and aggressions. You know, if I want things to change in the world, then, you know, like Frankl said, we only have the freedom to change ourselves, but it's as we change ourselves that we change the world.
Exactly.
It's your influence to in the opposite direction that helps another person to influence another person and another person. And instead of the grains of aggression being brought together by a Hitler or a Putin, that we'll have an army of spiritually inspired people to say, good has the power to overcome every wrong thing. I've got the ability to do it. And if I have it, you have it as well.
And also I want to add that I have made a big decision because this is a war that I have lived in my life. I haven't lived other wars. This is a big thing that I am really co-responsible, jointly responsible, that I don't mind whether whether withdrawing the grains of aggression from my system is good enough. It is good enough even for 2,000 years after, because I don't care about my fatal body. I care about my spiritual body, which is eternal. So I am sure that if everybody withdraws the grains of aggression from their system in 100 generations, maybe, doesn't matter. This is not so long. You know, maybe there is not enough grain of aggressions out there, so there is no possibility of a Hitler or a Putin to collect all these stones of aggressive and go and do that war. It is on us, you know. So I have this in my mind, even if that takes 100 years or 300 years, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, I was just made aware by Batya of another big conference on meaning in where was it, Hong Kong? Anyway, you know, think about it. When Frankl came out of the camps, he was a lone wolf as far as logotherapeutic teaching was concerned. But now there are institutes for logotherapy all over the world, and there's a greater meaning consciousness, not just by logotherapists, the world over. I don't think this conference is a logotherapy conference. They call it a meaning in life, MIL. But there are so many, you hear it being spoken. You know, there's a greater consciousness of that we are called, you know, to counteract the inhumanity to man by the humanity of man to man in the world today than there ever was. I think the forces for good are accumulating, and it's so inspiring to be joining this kind of movement, you know, and to do our share. You know, it's and you know, people who went before us and all those thousands of years each put a seed there, you know, but the seeds became more and more, and it's seeds of a real growth in a realization of what human beings are really supposed to be like. And it's actually wonderful. I think that Frankl, if he looked down and saw, I would be encouraged, not discouraged, but encouraged. And I am certainly.
Thank you.
Anybody else? 7:50. You know, I love the saying that logotherapy is an education towards responsibility. And where Frankl so warned against giving advice or preaching, you know, because the moment you do that, you place yourself on a pedestal and above the person you are advising or preaching to, because you're saying, I know better, and this is what you must do. It's quite something to think that, you know, that logotherapy does the opposite and actually appeals to the humanity in each one of us, and we can get away from what causes such tremendous conflicts in the world, ideological conflicts. You know, one nation thinking, or one group thinking they're superior to the others, and the others must bend the knee, or if they don't, you know, all these terrorist movements that we see in our day is really, that is the ideology. If you don't believe the way we do, you know, we'll make you believe, or if you don't, we'll kill you. So I love the saying of that Frankl also echoed, to say, we are to say after the Holocaust, never again. No, not on my watch. No, this I will not approve of, this I won't have any part of. Like one survivor said to me, he said, one thing he's learned in the camps, and that it is, and this is what he said, it is possible to say, no, this I do not do. This I do not approve of. And when we stand as a force for good and we reprimand and stand against, and our mouths are not shut, and we're not appeasing, and we're not compromising, and we're not overlooking, and but we're confronting what is wrong. That confrontation, who knows how many of those perpetrators, like Frankl even found among the Nazi guards, could be won over, can say, what is it that I'm doing? What is it that I'm part of? I don't want to do this anymore. But if you don't reprimand, if you don't stand up against, if you don't make your voice heard, and especially, and you can only make that voice heard if you have the backing of everyone that stands for the good with you, it's a solid front of no to what is wrong, and a solid message of saying yes to what is right. And that is how we can bring perpetrators not only to book, but to those of them that haven't become hardened beyond the point of being spoken to. We can still win them over. This is what rehabilitation in prisons and works among convicts is all about. If you don't make, well, I'll give you one example of a student here in Israel. And now this is among very religious people who do everything outwardly right, very pious, but there is sexual abuse among them. And there are things that are wrong. And he works with this particular group of almost fanatical religious people. And, they would say, oh, we've got it right, I mean, we're doing everything that, that's demanded of us in an outward sense of the word. And he said, no, he had the guts to confront them and say, no, I'm sorry. You can't say that you are religious and do what you do. You abrogate the fact that you are holding up a front of piety. And this is the yardstick, in other words. It doesn't matter who we are. We can't in the name of this, that, or the other ideology, worst of all, in the name of God, go out and kill or steal or sexually abuse. What? It's a contradiction in terms. So, yeah, that is also part of, and I think it's the most difficult part, because we are frightened to really make our voices heard in terms of the consequences we may suffer. But I tell you, it's like paradoxical intention. Terror, and that which frightens you blows itself up and makes itself so terrorizingly big. You do the opposite. You actually laugh at that. What? You saying what you're doing is right? I'm sorry. This is not it. And just a pinprick of that sharp sense of righteousness makes this whole balloon and puffed up arrogance just deflate. We haven't experimented enough with what is good to see what its power is, and I think that saying, all that evil needs to triumph in the world is for good men to do nothing, is very, very true. But we can be encouraged that how can a lie stand up against the truth? And how can what is false stand up, and what is ugly stand up what is truly beautiful? So anyway, listen, my lovies, I'm tired. Is it? Oh, Dida, you want to say something?
Can I say just the one last remark that connects to what you just said now in this last part? You mentioned before that Frankl talks about man being an intentionally directed person. And you, as a developmental psychologist, you connected it to having a contact with a significant other. But actually, Frankl took it from phenomenology that Husserl said that we are in consciousness is always intentionally directed towards objects. But Frankl changed it to say that we are intentionally directed towards meanings and values. So whatever you said now about saying no to what is wrong and taking the responsibility to respond and say no to what is wrong and yes to what is right, that is exactly that directedness outwardly to values and meanings that Frankl actually talked about. That's what we took from phenomenology.
Yeah, well, you know, everybody has a search for the truth, for meaning, and we find the revelation of meaning in very many sources. But I think what makes Frankl unique is his accent on the unscathed human spirit. And where he actually meant by that, well, existentialists and phenomenologists also spoke about that, but the freedom, not only, you know, to choose, but to choose the right thing. Like he said, our freedom is a freedom to responsibility. And his accent on the purity of the human spirit to be able to do that it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, you have that freedom of choice, even in terms of your attitude. If you can't change your situation, it's always there. That is the triumph, the triumphant power of the human spirit. And I think that because he worked within therapy, because he was a psychiatrist, and above all, because he was a man who went through the suffering that he did, that, you know, he pronounced truths that, of course, we know, but in a very much more riveting and profound sense of the word. In other words, that it isn't just a theory or a philosophy, it's a life's orientation that actually has impact, the impact of changing and transforming another life in terms of bringing that kind of renewed consciousness, intuitive consciousness of our relatedness to more than ourselves, so graphically to the fore. And I think that as a kind of person that he was taken through, that he has got something very unique to say, something very much sharper than just truths in a philosophical sense. How does it actually poignantly work? That is the focus of logotherapy, of therapy, logos through therapy, a therapy of meaning, healing through meaning. All right, thank you for that remark also, Dida, and everyone that attended tonight. We will be pursuing these subjects. I want to pursue them in more profound detail, to really think about them. You know, I want to know what works in real life, what is transformative. You know, because, you know, one can have all the knowledge in the world and yet not get to what it actually is all about. And that's where I want to be. Where else can I be? And where else can any one of us be? We have to really profoundly not only think about these things, but experience them in depth. And I think we do this by provoking each other's awareness in the way that we do through these Zoom meetings. So till next time. Good night, everybody.